Hi, welcome to Inside the Lines. I'm Lizi Arbogast alongside Scott Hardy. We are here for week 6 of the football season. It's moving along here. We're starting to think about playoffs, look at region standings very closely. Before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors, as always, Raddy and Langley Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance Agency. We are going to kick it off with our game of the week, which is Danville at Towson. Danville's coach, Richard White, told me this is a bigger rivalry than Reeltown.
Yeah, Reeltown people may not like that, but that was going to be one of the things I said. The last few years, this has really been the game that's decided the region. Well, not as late, but there was a stretch where those were the top two teams. Towson had a tremendous running back, Brandon Baines. I hate you missed him, but he was fantastic, and he was putting up rush yards.
Is he related to Casey, the quarterback?
That probably is his brother. That would make sense there. But he went on to play baseball at CAC, but he was a tremendous player. And so since then, there's been a little rivalry there, and so both communities, again, are very similar. So they know their football, and this is kind of a good tradition for both communities.
I feel like it's going to be a tough road ahead for Danville. Towson is, I believe they're ranked 10th right now.
Number 10.
In 4A, and they've had some signature wins so far this year. They don't score that much, which I think could work well for Danville, with Kadori Glenn being as explosive as he has lately. They've been able to put up some points, which could come in handy against Towson.
Yeah, and you bring up Towson. The only loss in the season comes from Mumford, in which we know how good Mumford is. And so, again, in this district of doom, as we've talked about. But you talk about the points, Towson averaging 23 points per game, Danville giving up 28 points a game. So we'll see there. But a lot of that, again, comes from the two blowouts with Lynette and Mumford putting up 50 points each both weeks there. So seeing it even out a little bit. But I'm with you. I think this will be a game where offense will be the key. Both teams do score or have the ability to score in quick spurts. But I think with the dynamic duo that the Tigers have, the Danville Tigers that is, they'll have an opportunity to keep this as competitive as they want it to be.
I have to mention, as a writer, it's not fun covering the Tigers versus the Tigers, because then you can never, in your story, say the Tigers, and then so you have to just say Danville. But you did mention Casey Baines at quarterback for Towson. He's been phenomenal all year. They have a really good wide receiver as well. I'm probably going to butcher his name. Aaron Cochran Gill, I think is his name.
Yes, that's right.
Aaron.
Baseball, Trey Cochran.
But I think those two will be a combination that Danville's going to have to look out for, especially knowing that they've given up a lot of big passing plays so far this season. So that could be Towson's ticket to a victory, I would think.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at a team in Danville who really, a lot of their success is going to come from what's happened offensively. So they're not the best team defensively in terms of points, but when it matters in the red zone, if you look at that, they've done pretty good when it comes to that portion of the defense. So we'll see if their secondary is able to combat the onslaught of offense through the passing game that Towson has. But I think that for fans who like scoring and like offense, this will be a good game for them.
Moving on down the line, Benjamin Russell is on the road again this week. They are at Chilton County. Benjamin Russell suffered their first loss of the season last week against a very good team. But I think that, Benjamin Russell just needs to rebound. Forget about that. It was a non-region game, luckily, and they're still in a really good place right now in the region standings.
Yeah, they're still ranked 10th in the state, and this was a game where you wanted to see. There was just a lot of things happening coming off the big win against Opelika, so everybody knew the importance of that win, especially being a region game and the rivalry between the two. But then it was homecoming week, and then there was just a lot of things happening. You wanted to see how they would respond emotionally from that. And truth be told, this was probably the best game defensively I've seen them play. Opelika's game was tremendous, but in terms of what Oxford was able to do offensively, their running back was outstanding, and they had two great offensive linemen. But it really reminded me of the Auburn-Clemson game, where just the offense couldn't get things going and really couldn't capitalize on the opportunities, but the defense kept them in the game the entire time. And so I think that that's something that if you're a Wildcat fan, you would look for that to continue. And as long as the defense continues to play as well as they have, then the Wildcats will be in good shape.
I feel like I kind of jinxed the Wildcats because I talked last week, of course, in many ways this week I jinxed them, but I talked last week to Danny Horn about how the injury bug had hit all of our teams in pretty major ways, except for Benjamin Russell. And then this past week, Benjamin Hendricks went down with an injury, David Heron went down with an injury. Those are two arguably the best defensive player and the best offensive player. We're not entirely sure what their statuses are, but obviously if those two guys can come back for this game, they'll be in much better shape.
I think in Benjamin's case, it was an ankle sprain. I think had it been a region game and it really had mattered down the stretch, he might have been able to play.
He would have wanted to.
He would have wanted. I think he wanted to play anyway.
To.
He tried to play a little bit after he came back, but he just wasn't able to push off. But Benjamin hurting his ankle, and then David a shoulder collarbone type of injury there. So we'll see what happens with them. But those two players are very important to the success of what's going to happen.
Right.
But we did talk about Brett Pitts and seeing him emerge, and he actually played really well in stepping in and calling the defense. Only a sophomore there, so I'm really excited to see his future as a Wildcat. But this should be a game that, there's some different storylines with it. This is one of our games to watch because of Tal Morrison, the former offensive line coach for the Wildcats, now moving over to Chilton County. So tough sledding for Chilton County early on, but he's a great coach, and they'll get things going. But it's going to be a tough game for them against the Wildcats this Friday.
Speaking of some key injuries, Horseshoe Bend is at Lafayette. We're still not sure the status on Trace Meadows, who also is suffering with an ankle sprain. He tried to go a little bit against Holtville, was taken out about early on in the second quarter, and it was just it was a game changer. And against a team like Lafayette, which is also ranked in the state, again, I was told that he's going to try to go, but I don't know how successful he'll be, and if he's not successful, it's going to be very tough for Horseshoe Bend to be successful this week.
Yeah, this is no knock on them, but as Trace Meadows goes, so goes the general.
Oh, absolutely.
So if he's not been able, that is your offense. So everything is predicated around getting him involved, and so they use him as decoy a lot of times too. So this again will put more pressure on Cade Worthy to get things going offensively. So hopefully
he played well.
He did,
yeah.
And so that was a tough loss for them. They really needed to win that one to stay afloat, but not as important because it wasn't a region game, but it was a game that they would have liked to have won for obvious reasons. But they do take the L. But I think that this will be a tough game for them, but we'll see what happens. If Trace is gone, that definitely changes things, but if he's there, I think that gives them a competitive edge there in certain areas against Lafayette.
And I don't think Lafayette is maybe as overpowering as they have been in the past, so they could have a chance.
Yeah, they're not as good as last year's team. Last year's team, led by Mr. Whitlow, who is actually at Auburn now, was probably, in my opinion, the best player in the state last year. And so I think they're a completely different team, but they do have the athletes, so we'll see that matchup again this Friday.
Reeltown is coming off of a bye. They are hosting Ranburn. And I talked to Coach Johnson this week, and he said we're pretty much in the exact same situation we were in last week. Got off to a rough start, started to come back, did really well in the second half of the season. He says he actually thinks that they're playing better football now than they were at this point last season. But the Ranburn game, it's been close. The last 3 years, it's been decided by less than a touchdown. And so I think it's one of those things where records don't necessarily matter in this kind of game.
Yeah, and normally I would say that, but we've just seen how other teams in the area have been able to take care of Ranburn. So I think Reeltown, as you said, this is the bye week. As we were getting ready for the show, the bye week came at a perfect time for them.
Really good time.
Allowing some guys to get healthy and kind of get their head back on straight. And I think last year they went 4-1 down the stretch after the bye week. So again, I have faith in Coach Johnson and his coaching staff to keep everything afloat in the meantime. But as the stretch comes down in the big region play games, they want to make sure that they stay on the winning side.
And they did suffer from some injuries in their last game against Lynette. Trey O'Neill and Cameron Faison both went out with injuries. They are expecting them to be back this week, so that really, really helps for sure. Central Coosa is at Pike County. Pike County is currently second in the region. Central Coosa is just struggling to. I think they played better. Thorsby is a very good team. They got some points on the board, which is encouraging. And Coach Shane Rary said that they kind of dominated the second half. Thorsby obviously probably changed some things up with the halftime score, but it's encouraging to see them maybe making some strides here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that happens in football. How a team finishes a game kind of carries over into the next week, and so kind of even going back to the Benj Russell Opelika game, the second half, the last 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter carried over to the beginning of the game for them. So with Central Coosa, hopefully that is an opportunity for them to get some confidence and momentum going, saying that they can move the ball, they can score some points. Thorsley was a top 10 team. I think they're ranked number 10 now, but Pike County very strong, always has been. So this will be a difficult matchup for them, but you'd like to see them stay competitive and continue to do what they've been doing and trying to progress and be a better football team.
For sure. We're going to wrap it up, as always, with our Dark Horse Player of the Week, sponsored by Dark Insurance Agency. Who do you got this week?
I'm going with T.D. Parker from the Cougars, and so we'll see if his nickname there is if he's able to
correlate that. I didn't even think about that.
Correlate that into some points for the Cougars is a nice supplement to Dante Daniels. So we'll see if he's able to help offensively for them, because they'll need all the production from everybody to beat a team like Pike County. But they've been putting in the work, so hopefully he's a catalyst for some of the offensive success that they need.
For sure. And I'm going to go with Tykeem Hawley of Danville. Coach White said he was one of the biggest defensive standouts for the Tigers last week. And going up against a team like Tallahassee, they're going to need their defense to play on point. So I'm looking for Tykeem Hawley to be a strong player this week. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much, as always, for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, Rodney and Langley Funeral Homes, as well as Alex City Marine and Dark Insurance Agency. Scott and I are hitting the road this week, going out to Tallahassee. I've never been to Tallahassee.
Well, you're in for a treat.
I'm pretty excited about it. So make sure to catch us. We'll be on Inside the Lines live on Alex City's Facebook page from 6 to 6:30 on Friday night, and we look forward to seeing you there.